And welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is Fall 1 reporting and certification. Normally we have it earlier in the year, earlier in the reporting season, but there's several changes, and so it was pushed back. But this is your typical Fall 1 reporting and certification training. If you've been doing CalPADS for a while now, and if you're new and this is your first one, this is the training in which we detail what's needed for Fall 1 certification. So with that, I guess I'll introduce myself and we'll get started. Nathaniel Holmes, trainer at CSIS. I'll be presenting today along with Kyron Pagulayan, also a trainer at CSIS. Kyron might be hiding. His camera might be off. Slideman and Marshall often like to hide. So they're joining me today, and it's possible that other CSIS staff will join us. I do encourage questions in the chat box. It's a way that we can identify if the training is inspiring any kind of thought, through participation. All right, so this is CalPADS, Fall 1 Reporting Certification. The beginning, first several slides is just an introduction for those of you who are new. So we'll just describe who the target audience of this training is. Those data coordinators that enter data into CalPADS, those who are interacting with CalPADS on a regular basis, whether that's daily, weekly, semi-weekly, whatever your work patterns are. Those of you who are new, so there's an advanced training which Slideman presents for every submission, and that's a real fast training. It's high level. It's for those who just need information about changes or the nuances. It's developed or it's given for those who are experienced. And then if any other stakeholders are able to join these trainings, we find it beneficial for the organizations, whether they be program experts or administration. Slideman and Marshall just redeveloped the training sequence. We're trying to organize the training. We constantly do this, actually. It seems like every year, but the basics is growing and expanding. You can see highlighted is the data collection. So if you're new, we're doing Fall 1, and from left to right, you can see all the previous trainings that have been recommended for you before you got to Fall 1. So that's the orientation. This is the responsibilities of CalPADS, what CalPADS does, then the basics, just essential skills as far as navigation, file submission, extracts, looking at reports, anomalies management, which is actually done in concert with Fall 1. Kyron's doing that now. And then data population, which is a summary of individual data population. We have a data population for every file type, and then Fall 1 data population summarizes what's needed for Fall 1. It simulates the submission. And then reporting certification is kind of like the culmination of all those trainings for Fall 1. You've submitted your data, you've interacted with CalPADS to get all the information in. Now we're going to look at the certification areas of reports, summarize what the data was used for. And then on the far left, skill building, we're continuing to build that out because CalPADS grows, and so we find that the LEA skills need to grow as well. And so we have certain objectives with those skills in mind, actually. And so the objectives for this training are for you, the LEA, to be able to identify the data reporting requirements for Fall 1 by establishing a network of stakeholders and developing local data collection procedures. The skill that we've identified that would describe these activities would be data leadership. So hopefully at the end of this training, there's something that you didn't know that was required for reporting, such as the language instruction program for EL students or all students. You can go back, get that information from your EL or language coordinators and correctly populate that. So that's just an example of when you're identifying data and establishing local collection procedures. And then, of course, we hope that Fall 1 reporting and certification will help you plan a timeline and a schedule that allows you to manage your competing priorities, produce meaningful outcomes through project management, facilitating data collection, submission, certification. And so you all are project managers because CalPADS has specific timelines, and those timelines are developed regardless of what else is required of you in your positions, right? And so often you have to work in concert with other staff. You have to get data from other staff. Perhaps you manage the submission, but you're not the one doing the input. Project managing, setting timelines, making sure that multiple people are on board is often required to be successful. And then we want you to be able to resolve the certification errors and anomalies related to the Fall 1 data collection using analytical mindfulness, review reports for completeness, reasonability, and exercising critical thinking. Those of you who are able to critical think You can find workarounds for many errors and bugs, which we've all been experiencing for about 5 to 6 months now, right? And so as we continue to try to improve the changes that have been implemented from the post redesign, critical thinking is going to be necessary because you all are identifying, again, bugs and errors are being revised. And so we're all in this together. I don't want to say struggling. I think it's gotten a little better from end of year, but it's, a constant exercise. And then lastly, the last objective we have by the end of this training, we want you to have the ability, or at least be encouraged that you could have the ability to approve the reports required for Fall 1 by supporting other stakeholders across your data ecosystem. We don't want you to take ownership of the report solely on yourself. You want to have, again, those other stakeholders, whether they're part of your language coordinator or someone in charge of the GATE program, your CBO looking at the LCFF report. You have to build these strong alliances within your LEA and with the CELPA. That's called coalition building. You basically have to enlist people who don't want to do it to be part of your team. So, you grab them by the arm, if necessary, by their collar, and make them have some responsibility to the data being submitted and reported. All right, so we have some expectations along with those objectives. We hope that you have viewed all the prerequisite self-paced training, attended the Fall 1 data population live, especially those of you who are new, haven't done a Fall 1 before, and are familiar with the CSIS LMS and the YouTube training channel, and then are familiar with how to use the CALPADS error list and the user manual and other reference material. So here's our CSIS training channel, and if you're signed up, all these trainings except for the Q&A are in the LMS as well. But anyone who doesn't have access or is new, here's Figma CSIS training channel. And I'll go to playlists. Slimy and Marshall have taken time to organize playlists. And so here's the basics, a prerequisite for today's training, and then the Fall 1 data population. So enrollment, student information program. Some of the information, like the batch file submission in these trainings has changed. But if you want to know field by field descriptions and what they're used for, these are great trainings if you're brand new. And then last year's Fall 1, these will be updated as we are recording this year. We have the user manual. So you can just Google CalPads user manual. So hopefully this isn't news to anyone, but just in case, here's the home screen, right? You have your links to the known issues, service tickets, and the Q&A, which again is every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. You just click this link tomorrow and you could join. I want to point out the Fall 1 roadmap. So if you're brand new, you have your calendar, a suggested timeline, you have this checklist that you can download and make sure you submit everything, and then descriptions, links into the user manual, talk about the functionality, but also it's expanded. Since Kyron's taken ownership of the user manual, he adds so much relevant information in here. It's probably the best resource. And then lastly, let me point you to the CalPAD system documents. So these 3 pages you should have bookmarked and have quick access to if you don't save these documents locally. The CalPADS file specification documents are listed here. You have your code sets, 2 different versions of the file specifications. The first one is a Word document that talks about transaction and processing and data collection. And then the second one is an Excel spreadsheet where it goes field by field for every file or record type. And it tells you the requirements, whether the formatting, the validation, so on and so forth. Then you have an Excel spreadsheet for the error list, and then the CalPADS data guide. So these are all reference documents that we will point you to just along the path. Hopefully that's a quick introduction. So that was the introduction. We're going to go to overview, the Fall 1 data submission. Then Kyron's going to talk about the student subgroups, the certification process, the reports, and the wrap up.